If you've seen more than a couple poi videos, then you're probably familiar with the fact that poi can seem to come in a variety of lengths. Some people like poi that reach down to their feet, while others keep them choked up close to elbow length. Why might you want one over another? Well, we're going to discuss that in this video. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And in this video, we're going to talk about tether length and what options you might want to pursue with your own poi tethers. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow DNA, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. And a special thanks to the first non-business friend of the channel, Johnny Howard. Thanks so much for your support, Johnny. Short tethers, long tethers, tethers in between. What's the deal here? Is one better than another? Which one should you choose? I've been spinning poi now for more than 13 years, and in that time, I've experimented with just about every length of tether you could possibly imagine. I've found some lengths that are really good for really specific tasks, others that are helpful in a general sense, and some that I knew right away were just not for me. So what are some of the benefits of long poi versus short poi, and which option might you want to choose for your own set? Well, let's take a look and see. Let's start off with short poi. I'd define poi as fitting this category if they're shorter than the distance from your thumb joint to your shoulder. Shorter tethers have a lot of benefit to them. For one thing, they tend to make stalls much cleaner and easier because they overall have less mass and area to stop and have to switch direction on. Because of this, short poi are a favorite of people that do a lot of stacking or plane breaking, to say nothing of how helpful it is to learn top stalls with short poi to kind of ease one into this trick. In addition, they tend to also be a good fit for inversion-based tricks such as lovelacing, introverted weaves, and buzzsaw weaves. The short length ensures that the poi are less likely to run afoul of body surfaces and can stay within your arm span while performing these sorts of tricks. And honestly, the biggest reason I favor shorter poi at this point are that they are fantastic for dance. Shorter poi are super responsive to body movement, able to change direction quickly at a fast tempo, and can also be made to work with slower tempos too. This is the biggest reason why I've kept my tethers relatively short for the past few years. But there are a few downsides. For one thing, short poi limit the amount of space that you take up. If you're performing with your poi and want to be seen from a great distance, short poi are going to limit your capacity to be seen. And it also has to be said, short poi can really make throws and contact poi a huge challenge. When performing contact rolls, poi use the tether as their source of momentum. If you're performing your contact rolls with short tethers, it can limit how far the poi might travel in a single beat of a contact roll. This can make compound paths like folding lines really challenging. And there's also the issue of plane control. Because the angular momentum of shorter poi is less than it is with longer poi, this can make it more of a challenge to keep your plane straight with them, especially with tricks that require precise plane control in small spaces, such as meltdowns and many body tracers. You'll definitely find yourself fighting to keep the trick stable the shorter your tethers are. Okay, so we started off small. Now let's get big. I'd define long tethers as anything significantly longer than the distance between your thumb joint and your shoulder. The length that I always think of when people mention this length is people who have poi that can touch the ground from them standing with their poi at their sides. You've probably never seen me spin poi that long because I actually find them to be a huge challenge, but there are things that this length is good for. Probably the biggest benefit to poi this long is that you can get super long contact rolls out of them. Because the tether is the source of the poi's momentum, things like frontside angel rolls are much easier to pull off. The other thing long poi are great for? Anything involving throws. Longer tethers basically make for bigger targets when catching the poi that you've thrown, whether that be in the form of basic throws such as in-spin and isolated throws, or even poi juggling. You're going to find that catching a lot of those throws is easier with more tether to work with. Long poi are also visually a fantastic way to make your work appear as far away as possible. Everything you do with longer tethers makes whatever tricks you're performing able to be seen from much farther away than you might otherwise get. If you're doing a lot of performing at big events, longer tethers will most definitely help you get seen. Long poi have traditionally been favored by many spinners in Europe, and you can find no shortage of footage of them in action. Okay, so what's the catch with longer tethers? Well, first and foremost, there's just the fact that if you want to shorten them enough to do things like inversions, it takes quite a bit of work to get there, and it's super noticeable. And then there's stalls. If you're up for the challenge, there's nothing in the world like trying to stall long poi to make you super honest and super clean with your stalls. Going back to shorter poi after this will seem like you've suddenly been set loose in ways you can't imagine. My biggest problem with them is simply that spinning them means that you're either locked into spinning with a pretty slow tempo, or you wind up spending half of your time with them wrapped around your hands. I kind of came up with a rule for myself many years ago that if I was wrapping my poi more than half the time as I was spinning with them, I should really just be spinning with shorter tethers. To say nothing of the fact that it requires a lot more physical strength to do many poi transitions because the amount of angular momentum on the poi is much higher. Getting them to stop or switch direction becomes quite the wrestling match. Okay, so we've talked long and short poi. What are some other options? I've said many times before, and I'll say again, that I think using poi that stretch from your thumb joint to your shoulder is a great place for most people to start. You're going to find stalls to be a little bit of a challenge, but you can always wrap the tethers if you want to practice with shorter poi before graduating to full length. But more than that, this is a good length for all-around spinning. It's easy to shorten for inversions, and you've got more than enough tether to work with to begin experimenting with contact poi and throws. Plus which, it has to be said that having tethers that are at least this long is super helpful for beginners. When you're first learning poi, getting down plane control can be a bit of a hassle. So long as your tethers aren't short, you'll find that the angular momentum on the poi will help keep them in plane. So this is definitely a good place for most people to start. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong length for poi. The right length is the one that works for you. So try a few things out and see if you're tempted to make your poi shorter or longer based upon what you do. Remember, you can always cut a tether shorter, but you cannot add length without changing out the tethers. With one exception. These are Lanternsmith's Umoja Poi, and I am a huge fan of them, specifically because they give you more flexibility for trying out different tether lengths. You can coil up extra tether in the capsules inside the heads if you want to go shorter, or just go full length if you prefer. And switching back and forth is a breeze. To grab a set of these for yourself, use the code DREXFACTOR with a 0 instead of an O over at lanternsmith.com for 5% off your order. It also helps out the channel, so everybody wins. Real quick, I just want to throw out a huge thank you because this video would not be possible without the kind support of these wonderful people right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon, and they, along with the people listed down in the description, help to make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. Do you like poi content? Do you like tutorials, flow sessions, and vlogs on flow arts culture? Consider signing up to support my work. I want to bring flow arts to the wider world and help people connect with their brains and their bodies through prop spinning. So help me do it. Head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and sign up. You can do that either by clicking on the card that just popped up on YouTube or by using the link down in the description. Not only will you be supporting this mission, but you'll also be able to get early access to all of my content, a vote in what content I produce in the future, and a host of other awesome rewards such as getting a special weekly Poi listen delivered to your inbox that is available only to my supporters. Go give that a look and please consider supporting the channel. Thank you in advance. What's your preferred tether length? Are you a long poi or a short poi kind of person? I'd love to know. Leave me a comment with your preference and why you prefer it. I'll leave a link to a playlist of videos I've done on other topics related to poi hardware down in the description, as well as up on screen if you're watching this video on YouTube. Make sure to get out to flow today, and I'll see you with a new video on Friday. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.